Okay, so this is kind of a beginner self-sufficiency intro. So I said, I was talking to someone the other day and I was talking about, being like crunchy, semi-crunchy. Some people, call it scrunchy, whatever. And she kind of got a look on her face and I was like, do you know what that means? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. It's not like, the circles I run in, it's a pretty popular word. And she was like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not just like common knowledge what that means. So this is kind of you could call it a crunchy 101 class 2. You're not in this class. So crunchy is just kind of being, I think it comes from like all these hippies who just eat granola. I think is kind of where it originated. But it's kind of that, out of the system living, being, yes, self-sufficient as much as possible. All of us are going to have different levels because we live different places. We have different needs. I'm going to have different needs than Alysha does because she's got kids and, all of that stuff. And so it's just doing the best that you can in your situation with your family, and then really listening to your instincts. That is a big thing. We are, okay, without going too far into, the conspiracy theories that are true, actually. We are so conditioned to just listen to other people, listen to the experts, listen to the government, listen to your parents, listen to whatever, that we forget to listen, that God has given us, God-given instincts to listen to as well. So being crunchy is just kind of getting back to that, doing what feels right in your soul. And, obviously Alysha and I are God believers. If you're not, like, it still applies. But yes, listening to your own instincts. So, and being self-sufficient, meaning you can feed yourself. If, tomorrow the grocery stores were empty, could you survive, is kind of where this is going. And kind of a quick introduction. We both like to talk. So when I say quick, just take that with a little grain of salt, but it's going to be really good. So yes, make sure you holler if you have any questions, if anyone's joining us live. Oh, hi, Sue. And we'll get going. Okay. You want to go first or you want me to
go? It's totally up to you. Whatever you want.
Okay. Well, your words are first. So take it away.
Okay. So like, as Abby said, homesteading, basically it's self-sufficiency. And like she said, it can be so many different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be you live off grid on 50 acres with a barn full of animals, acres to farm. Like even myself, we only live on an acre. We do, a 30-ish by 30 garden, but we didn't start there. It originated from like pots on our patio, and it's something that virtually anybody can do. And obviously, if you want to eventually get to the point of having cows and chickens and, being 100% self-sustainable, that's awesome. But there's the best part of, growing your own food and having your own produce is knowing the ingredients that are in your food and feeding your family, obviously more healthy alternatives. That there's no preservatives in it. There's not any pesticides, none of the crazy yucky additives they like to put in our food, and no dyes, any of that kind of stuff, because you grew it yourself, you know what's in it. So there was just like a couple of things that I did want to share as far as, I'm no expert by no means. First year starting from seed for me was last year, but before that always did like starter plants, and that would be like obviously your easiest best option, and there's nothing wrong with it because I still do that too. Local nurseries are by far like your best place to get your already established plants, and you want to grow things that your family is going to eat. You want to grow stuff that you guys love. If you're not a big tomato fan, then don't get 10 different varieties of tomatoes. Or if you love cucumbers, then by all means buy all the cucumbers you want to. The biggest thing is just to start with, you know, what you're going to eat and what you guys like. I planted tons of tomatoes last year because that's something awesome that's easy to can. The biggest thing too is, you know, finding stuff that you can preserve easily. So stuff that you can pickle, stuff that you can freeze, stuff that you can, and it doesn't have to be like super fancy either. Some of the great options that I like for planting, I lost my place. I'm gonna go back to my notes, is basically, okay, so start small. Plant what you can handle, plant what you can water, and especially that you can weed, because I planted way more than I could handle last year, and I had pounds of tomatoes that I ended up giving away. I know I gave some to Bailey because I'm like, I can't can all these, I'm sick of canning, which was awesome because I like really enjoyed being able to hand those off and help somebody else out that, you know, was able to process that stuff too. But it was just a lot for me because, you know, what am I going to do with 50 pounds of tomatoes that like I'm picking day after day? And great options for planting. So there's like 3 different options. Obviously, you can plant straight in the ground, which is what I do. I find it easiest. You can do, a lot of people like the raised garden beds, which obviously are more pricier and you have to plan and build and that kind of stuff. There's more work involved. And then planter boxes and patio planters. Like there's a lot of plants like tomatoes, peppers, a lot of your herbs actually do really well in tiny container pots. And another option too that I love to touch on is buying from and supporting our local farmers. So even farmers markets, like I know there's one in Davison that we like to go to. I think it's Knickerbocker's actually, that brings a lot of their produce, and they always have really awesome stuff. And that's a great way to get, you know, local fresh produce that tastes by far 100 times better than, you know, anything you get in the grocery store. And then obviously, you know, knowing your planting season, there's a lot of like research, I guess, involved in the gardening process of it, but it's a learning curve. Like it's not like, oh, if you don't do this, you're going to fail at it. You know, just most of the time I just stick it in the ground and it grows, you water it and give it some, you know, organic fertilizer and it's good to go. And, you know, the other thing too is like, it's a lot easier to buy in bulk because like this past year, I really tried to focus on like what was in season. So like when our strawberries come in, when our blueberries come in, and I like went with the kids. I know I went with Bailey one time. We got blackberries. We didn't get that much because the kids ate most of them, but it was still like, it was fun because we were able to like, you know, it's an experience like showing your kids like, this is how, you know, the blueberries we get from the store, this is how they grow on this plant, and being able to like see them enjoy that, pick those, and then take them home, wash them, and then anything obviously extra like we froze, we use for smoothies. You can make jam out of that kind of stuff too. I did like get tons of strawberries one year and canned them in like the little pint-sized jars, and you know what you're putting in it, like it's sugar and strawberries, like there's no dye in it, there's no high fructose corn syrup, which is obviously the best part of that. And then like obviously discounted rates too. It's not going to be, you know, as pricey as what you find in the grocery store. And then the other thing that I do focus on too is like processing and saving your food for the long term. So there's obviously, you know, quite a few of options. Like you can, like I mentioned, you can freeze any of your produce. The things that do work good for that is like your green beans. I did freeze peppers. I mean, virtually you could freeze anything. You lose like your texture, but when you're like adding that stuff to soups and stews and that kind of stuff, it still, I mean, it tastes the same to me because it always gets soggy anyways because you cook it for a certain amount of time. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as raw, but it's still, excuse me, a good way to preserve that. And then there's canning, which is obviously your longer storage without having to utilize a freezer. Not necessarily need fancy equipment for that. There's lots of videos on like YouTube, or like you can Google how to do it. It's not super, super complex. I know the first time I did, I was like terrified. I'm like, well, what if I do it wrong? And it's a process, but it's so rewarding because you can like grow this food, and then you're able to like get it in a can, and it makes you like appreciate, I guess, it so much more versus, just buying it from the store. And by far, obviously, it tastes better. And then another option would be drying your food. So I know not everybody has a dehydrator. Obviously, it's an investment, but air drying and sun drying is also big too. Obviously, it has to be like temperatured. So you have to sun dry it in the summer. We obviously can't do it right now because it's 20 degrees outside and it doesn't work.
Yes.
But I love like, especially drying fruits and that kind of stuff, because you can put that stuff in mason jars and just store it, and it keeps, long-term for quite a while. Obviously, it doesn't last long in my house. My kids love fruit. So that's good, like healthy snacks, healthy alternatives instead of, the other options that you find in the store. And then there's also fermenting. So, which is where, you obviously ferment the food for X amount of time, you add tons of salt to it. It's not necessarily as scary as it sounds, but with enough salt, I mean, you can really preserve anything. Just think of back in the olden days before we had freezers and refrigerators and refrigeration. That's how they stored their food long-term, is using salt and fermenting. And easy things that you can do that are good for fermenting is obviously like your sauerkraut from your cabbages. You can do refrigerator pickles, pickled vegetables, that kind of stuff. And obviously this stuff is awesome for your gut too. So all your healthy microbiome stuff that you're going to get for your gut to keep you healthy. We also actually, when was it? I want to say it was March of last year, we got chickens because it's something that I've just really always wanted. But I will say that it's an investment because we happened to get them like right when, COVID happened, and all like the prices of everything just skyrocketed. But it is nice because we have our own eggs. I know I've been able to give a bunch to Abby. I know that Bailey's been able to get some. So it's awesome because like what these chickens are eating. We only give them organic. We do let them free range. And it takes like preparation. Like you have to obviously have a home for them. They have to be, safe from predators. We have coyotes out here, and we have stuff like that we have to deal with. So obviously it's like you have to prepare for that, but it's rewarding because the kids get to learn how to take care of animals, that kind of stuff. And then the last thing that I did want to mention too is for homesteading is growing herbs in your garden as well as foraging. So foraging is basically just collecting and harvesting what's naturally growing around us. Most of the stuff that we actually consider weeds actually have medicinal properties. Obviously, you don't want to just go pick something up and eat it. You want to make sure you know what it is, because there are things out there that are not good for us, so that are actually toxic. But like stuff like dandelion, plantain, yes. Goldenrod, like common things that we know that grow around here actually have, super beneficial uses. Our dandelion is awesome for detoxifying your liver. Your plantain is actually really good skin, tonic, anti-inflammatory. Like a good story, I actually I read something about plantain, how good it was for bug bites, and I had stepped on a bee barefoot in our backyard one time, so I was like, oh, I have plantain. So I like ran out in the backyard and I like made like a weird paste out of it and stuck it on there, and I swear in like 5 minutes and the inflammation and everything was gone. So that was just seeing it actually work is the really cool part too. And then I said goldenrod, that one is like your antifungal, microbial, and then it's also really good for UTIs. And most of the herbs that do grow are perennial, so they grow back every single year. Common easy ones that I use a lot, like as far as culinary or medicinal properties, are just parsley, chamomile, basil, calendula, and purslane, which are all, I mean, I could go into the special uses of all of those, but I'd like to also talk about, as far as like resources. I know it seems like a lot to unpack when it comes to, homesteading and learning about gardening and, different uses of herbs and that kind of stuff. But there's so many like resources out there, and there's a lot of like books that even I still reference to. Like, I know I shared this one with you, but the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. And there's like so much good stuff in here, and it actually has pictures, and it shares with you like how you can use it internally or skin, and even tells you like how to make simple stuff like tinctures, or how to make slaves, that kind of stuff that actually you can use, for certain ailments. Like, oh, my kid has stomach ache. Like, I'll actually go to this book and look and see, what herbs I can give the kids because they have a tummy ache, which is awesome because it's like, what if you can't go to the store and get them something? Or if I don't have something on hand, like it's awesome to have, herbs or something that you're able to give them as an alternative, which obviously drying herbs, you can buy in bulk or you can grow them yourself and dry them. And they store for a really long time. I just keep all my stuff in a mason jar, obviously with the airtight seal. And it's just really cool. There's so much to it, but it's not as terrifying, like, as it sounds. Like, you think homesteading and you're like, oh no, I could never do that, living off the land and that kind of stuff, which is awesome. Like, some people actually do that, but it doesn't have to be like complex and complicated. I know that there's a lot of urban areas that do allow, people to raise chickens. Obviously, they don't usually let you have roosters just because of crowing and stuff, but it's just a lot of people like can do more than I guess they think they can. So
yeah, I actually watched might have been a TikTok video the other day about someone who lived, I mean, she was like one of those people that could like reach out her kitchen window and like touch her neighbor's house.
Yeah.
And they were raising quail because chicken were not allowed in their subdivision or wherever they were, but quail were allowed. And so just kind of, getting around the rules like that, there are always different ways to do that. So, chickens aren't like a must, there's always something else.
Sure.
You can't do chickens, there's always different things.
Well, my sister go ahead.
Another thing is like to partner with people. Like, maybe you are blessed with a really green thumb, but you don't want nothing to do with the chickens. Like, but you want those eggs. So you partner with, your neighbor who wants nothing to do with gardening, but raises animals. Like that, that village and community is very important.
For sure.
In homesteading as well. So keep going.
No, for sure. Well, I just wanted to say, like, it's touchable for so many people. Like, sometimes, like you said, people live in urban areas and they're not able to, have a huge garden. Maybe that's something that's on their dream list. So they are working on, finding property or something, manageable for themselves. But like my sister, she lives in an apartment, and last year she like had her boyfriend build her these planter boxes so she could put her herbs in it out like on the patio. And it's like, was it perfect? No, but she was still able to like grow her herbs. She was able to dry some of those, and it was something. And like, she was felt accomplished knowing that she was able to do that for herself, and supporting, local farmers. It's almost like going back to the way things used to be before there was the convenience of the grocery stores. it's supporting like the local farmers, because they're out there. There are people that, you know, raise cows for a living. I know, especially out in Millington, there's a dairy farm not too far from me. And they do like the co-op where you can buy into a cow and buy raw dairy if that's something that you're interested in. People raise, you know, animals and that kind of stuff, and you can buy a half cow, you can buy chickens, and it's obviously, you know, pay more for it because you buy it in abundance, but you just throw it in your deep freezer and it keeps for, you know, a lot longer, and it's a lot tastier than the stuff in the store. They will say that.
Yes, I have no desire to raise cows. So our land actually butts up to to a I guess it'd be a dairy farmer, but you know, a meat cow farm. And so it works out perfectly because yes, my freezer is still full of local beef. But I didn't have to, I didn't have to raise those nasty things on my in my backyard.
No, you don't. And that's the thing, is you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you know, you're like, oh, this person does it, or that's what, you know, you think that's the definition. Like, there's other people out there that do it for a living and that supply it to their community. It's just finding those people and connecting with them, and, you know, like you said, getting what it is that you don't want to do from somebody else.
Yeah, and they're everywhere. I mean, no matter where you live. We, of course, excuse me, Alysha lives like 10 minutes from me, so we probably frequent a lot of the same places, but we definitely can give you some suggestions locally here. If you're, because sometimes figuring out where to start is usually the hardest part of anything. So kind of, I guess, a couple tips, because I like to do everything all at the same time and not pace myself. It's either all or nothing. So that is not the attitude to have when becoming self-sufficient. There are some people that does work best for them, but the majority of people, it does not. So just pick one thing. You know, we definitely, like last year, it was like go big or go home in the garden, and it was like a complete nightmare. So
well, because then you have to worry about weeding it, and you know, you've got all this produce and you're like, what am I going to do with this? I can't eat it fast enough. So you have to either freeze it or process it or give it away. So
we never got to that part because you know, let's see, it did nothing but rain for like the entire month of May and June. And then July and August was like, you know, drier than the Sahara. And it was, it was like the garden flooded, and it was like,
I remember that when we got that dry time, because I had just planted the seedlings that I grew. It was cabbage and broccoli and something else. And we went somewhere and I totally forgot. And obviously they didn't get water, so they dried right out because they're not like established. I came home, I'm like, that was not very smart of me. But it's like, okay, I guess we're starting over again. This is a learning curve. Like, you know.
Yes. So when you see people who are successful, you know, I mean, you don't have to scroll very far on your Facebook feed, you know, to see someone doing it perfectly. I guarantee if you reach out to that person and ask them how long it took them to do that, they will not tell you this is their first time doing it. Okay. We could all get on Facebook Live and talk for hours about all of the different, you know, homesteading and mistakes and things that we've made. So it's just,
and chickens will eat your food too. So just that's another thing.
And dogs will,
if you're planning on free ranging them, you need to have fencing around your garden, unless you want to just feed your chickens and not your family. So that was the learning process too.
Yes, it's constantly a learning process, and I do not enjoy doing things wrong. I want to have everything perfect on my first try. And so if you are that same way, then you're not alone, and just do it. You'll get over it. I'd rather have it done than I prefer it perfectly, but I know that's not realistic. So it just needs to be done. Okay. If
Yeah.
all you have is a, 4 foot by 1 foot planter box on your porch, then, plant one of a couple different things, the main things
Yeah.
that you would use, or, things like that. You don't have to have a whole acre to garden and do all these things. So just
Yep.
one step at a time. Yeah. Even just
For sure.
if you have no interest in growing things, that's fine. Not everyone does. So just putting your money where your goals are and where your values are. So, okay, sorry, I got distracted.
No, you're fine.
So shopping at, farmers markets, or if you have friends, I guarantee no matter where you are, who you are, you have some friends somewhere who do this type of thing, who garden, who do things like that, or who will point you in the direction of better options to where to shop, what to shop, different things like that. So
For sure.
yeah. Okay.
The other thing I did want to mention too is obviously if you're going to garden, you got to stop using fertilizer. Like because obviously, you know what I'm saying, the point of being so sustainable is obviously for your own health and the self-sufficiency part of it. And if you're using that stuff on your lawn, it's still going to run off to wherever, and you think, your kids are playing in it, your dogs are playing in it. It's kind of counterproductive to what it is that you're doing. So obviously you don't want to use that if you're growing your own garden, or if you have like animals and that kind of stuff you're trying to raise too.
Yeah. And you honestly, there's so many natural options. And then there's so many, my favorite thing that of course I love my oils. I'll always talk about those, but my favorite thing I've been kind of reading about lately is like companion planting. So if you plant,
it works.
Yes, I'm part of a few different seed groups and stuff like that on Facebook. And it just blows my mind sometimes how well it works. And even Young Living will talk about, they do companion planting and ground cover and things like that. And it blows my mind.
There's a garlic spray too that I use often for bugs, which helps tremendously. Obviously it doesn't last as long. So if you get like a really good rain, you have to reapply it, but you can buy it like concentrated, and it stinks. Trust me, it's garlic, but it does work well to keep like the pests away. And the companion planting, I will say, I want to say it's last year, I had a huge issue with little bugs on my tomato plants, and they just got a disease and they all died, and I didn't get, the harvest that you want. And then I looked into, like you mentioned, the companion planting, and I planted tons of calendula along the edge of it, and they're supposed to be like an attractant crop, so the color attracts these little bugs that like to go after your tomatoes. And by the end of the season, like my calendula was like covered in these bugs, but my tomatoes weren't. I'm like, yes, it worked. So it's like just cool when you learn tricks like that. Like I never knew that until it's like we said, it's a learning process for sure. But it is cool once you do something and it works. And then next year it might not work. There was one year when our garden was an Olympic sized swimming pool because of all the rain we got, and I didn't get anything planted until super late in the season. But there's some things that are just not in your control. You can't, there's nothing you can do about them.
Yeah. Gardening is so fun and like so frustrating at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's worth it, because even like we got quite a few beans last year. And a couple peppers, but like, I mean, our garden was just, it was a learning year. We'll just call it that. So many things have changed on my, cause I like plan it all out and figure out which rows are going to put what in. And different companion planting and things like that.
Mhm.
So yes, last year was a learning year. So yes, it has definitely affected the way I plan this year, which do I enjoy having sucky gardening years? Or yes, no, I do not enjoy screwing things up, especially spending, all the money on seeds and things
Yeah.
that we did. But
Yeah.
it's going to happen. And instead of, you know, dwelling on the fact that I screwed the whole garden up last year and didn't get what I wanted, instead, I'm going to take all of those screw ups and learn from them and make this year better. And yeah, plan a little better and things like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, learning curve, frustrating, but so, so worth it.
Mhm.
Yes, just to know what I am feeding my family, what was used on it, where it came from. And then there is nothing. If you watched our last class we did together, we talked about grounding and different things like that. There is just nothing like having your feet and your dirt, your feet and your dirt, your feet and your hands in dirt, in
Yeah.
your dirt that you are working up.
Mhm.
So it's just amazing. All for your entire health, because health is physical, mental, spiritual, emotional.
Mhm.
I mean, we are not just, so the fruits of your garden, support your physical body. The actual gardening process supports your emotional and mental, and even
Mhm.
spiritual. I mean, I think I had most of my conversations with God in my garden last year, and so the gardening process is great for, your whole body. And then the fruits, yeah, are good for your physical body. So it's, it's something I'm looking forward to. And yeah, something that is a process. So if
Mhm.
this year you go to your local nursery and you buy some starters and only get a couple peppers. Well, next year, okay, you know, they need more, oh my word, I just lost my word. They need watered more or they need watered less. Like there's always something
Mhm.
to learn. And next year can always go better. So
For sure.
yes, now I'm like, I was writing down all of the like directions on the back of my seed packets I got, the temperature they like and the when to sow them and different things like that. And I'm like, I'm like dying to have my hands in the dirt.
I
And
know.
of course my garden is still covered in snow. So I'm like, I can't,
Yeah,
I
mine's
literally can't do
frozen
anything right now.
solid
But
too.
yes, so
I
I'm
know.
I'm real excited. I'm like dying to start some indoors, but I don't have any space to start indoors.
I
Um,
started too
so
early because last year was our first year starting from seed, and I started a little bit too early because I was obviously anxious, like
mhm,
and excited, obviously. And they started to get like leggy, because they're ready to go
yep.
on the ground and they're stretching for artificial light. Just isn't the same as real sunlight. There's just don't compare, obviously.
Yeah.
So they started to get leggy on me, but it was still like, enjoyable. I lost a lot of stuff. I still can't grow lavender if my life depended on it. But
And that's
I've
something that
learned.
I can grow.
Can you really?
I did
What
not
are your
start it from
tricks?
seed. I did not start from seed
Okay.
last year. I did this year, but I
No, I
just
got a
bought,
starter plant, but I can't grow them from seed.
yeah. No, I mean, that was literally like the only thing I did not kill in the garden last year was lavender. I
Okay.
mean, I had two and I even kept them like in pots. So, and I am
Hmm.
terrible waterer.
They don't like
So,
water. That's probably why.
okay, good. That, because I don't give them any water. But yeah, I mean, lavender. Yeah. And I don't even think I bought the lavender last year. I think it was 2 years ago. So yeah, my lavender, now I'm going to say this and I'm going to go out there and it's going to be dead. But yeah,
It
my
should come
lavender,
back. Mine came back
it did
from
last year. Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah. And usually, I mean, it gets obviously your starter plants start out tiny, but a lot, like I'd mentioned, a lot of your herbs are perennials and they grow back every year. And if not, like something like your chamomile, for instance, like it's not a perennial, but if you leave like the flower buds on there, it'll reseed on the ground. And it's the same for what's the other one? cilantro, it'll do the same thing too. So if you just leave it where it is and don't touch it and let it go to seed and leave a couple in the dirt, it'll regrow for you next year. Like that's completely hands off. You know what I'm saying? Like God does the rest, and it does the cycle of life that it's supposed to. So
Yeah.
stuff like that is awesome too, because it's not, as labor intensive of having to reseed, replant every year.
Yeah, we let's see. 2 years ago I planted a little bit of mint, and then last year, like we tilled up the whole garden and you put more compost in and things like that. And then my entire garden, it's let's see how big, I like 30 by
pull the mint out, did you?
40 or something. And no, I did. Well, I think it's tomatoes that don't like mint. And so I would like pull the mint from the, tomato row. But yeah, I mean, cabbage and broccoli and whatever love the mint.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to repel cabbage bugs and stuff like that. So I left it everywhere else, but it was everywhere. And so I'm walking, through the garden, and I'm like eating mint leaves like they're going out of style. And the kids are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Eating a mint leaf." And so they'd come in the garden and they're, chomping down mint leaves. And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
We have so much mint. It was so funny. But yeah, I couldn't figure out what it was at first. I'm like, "What on earth? This is like everywhere." So that was really cool. I love, when that stuff like that happens, the reseed that I did not plan on. So this year I'm hoping that happens again, because I didn't even order any mint. So
I don't think I have any. I've got lemon balm.
I ordered that too. I was thinking about you. I was going through, okay, so I order most of my seeds from the Baker Creek heirloom seeds. I love them. They are like non-GMO, original intact seeds.
Your heirloom stuff, so it's not GMO anything. Sure.
Yeah. So I love them. So I'm like ordering this year, and I was thinking about you, because I'm like going through, they have like different descriptions and things like that. And I cannot, let's see, it was butterfly pea, like that sounds really weird saying it out loud, but PEA, some kind of blue flower. They were talking about it. You can use it as like a natural food dye. You can make a tea out of it.
Like they make butterfly PT. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And so I ordered some of that, and then I did order, I have lots of calendula, and I don't think I ordered any chamomile, but there were a couple that I ordered because they had like medicinal properties listed. So I was thinking about you. I'm like, I'm going to be able to, use my oils and go into my garden and like have everything right at my fingertips. I was so excited.
Yeah. So I just wish like one day I'm like, okay, someday I'll have a greenhouse. So that way I can have all my stuff like all year round, instead of just like, so many years out of the month. Cause I miss like that being in the dirt and like being surrounded around, like they say that being around the green, like having just the color, like it boosts our mood. So that's why I have house plants in my house, which, it's becoming a problem. My poor fiddly fig, you should see. Well, because Eli pulls the leaves off of it. So it's literally now a stick in the dirt with like 2 leaves at the top, and they're so finicky too. No, it's so bad. So I need to find it a new home or put something else in there. But
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I bought I can't even remember what it's called. Some house plant. I'll think of what it's called later. But I bought it, yes, and I have it sitting on the floor, and it's kind of thin, pointy-ish leaves. And yeah, I mean the cats have eaten the whole bottom of the plants, and I'm just like, I want to be one of those people, that have tons of house plants, and I love them, but I'm like, I can't, between the dogs knocking them over and the cats eating them. I'm like, me forgetting to water them. Like, this is just, I've killed so many succulents that are supposed to be, succulents are about near impossible to kill. And yeah. So
I'm not very good with succulents. I like to overwater them.
I found that if I put it near my diffuser, like it's enough water that they do really well. But other than that,
that's a good idea.
So, but now I've got too many that I I don't, I don't have space around the diffuser. So yeah, I just need to like put it on my to-do list every day to, spritz them or something, but I have not. So I just kind of do it randomly, but there is one is on top of my fridge and that one will not die. I don't know how it gets water on top of the fridge because I don't water it, but it's not died yet. So just so funny. Some die instantly and some live forever. It's so odd to me. Just love it. Okay, so a couple of suggested accounts. So I think I have this right. I didn't go look it up, but Instar Gardens. She is a homesteader and she actually does like consulting. Like you can actually pay her and she, will like tell you what to do basically and help you set up your homestead. But she does live like in a subdivision. So she is awesome. I love following her. And then Michigan Gardener. Obviously he does like Michigan exclusive specific stuff.
Down. Are they on Instagram?
Yes, they both are. They're both on YouTube, I believe, as well with full videos. And then I know they're on Facebook too. So those are two of my favorite accounts. And then yes, I love Baker Creek Seeds, and they have a whole group. I think it's just Baker Creek Seeds. Yes, people all around the world are sharing their gardens and tips, and I have screenshot so many things from that group. Just amazing different tips and things like that. So
yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to talk on too, is Facebook groups, like you said, are a huge resource for, I know that there's beginning gardeners one-on-one that I like join that are really helpful. Like anytime you have a question, you're like, hey, I have this issue, or how soon, like people are always so willing to help. And there's so many people out there that have gone through it, that have trialed and errored, and they know what works, they know what doesn't work. And obviously it's going to be different based on your zone. So obviously in Michigan, we're like, what, 5B?
Yeah.
6 or 5B. Yeah.
And
it's going to be different than obviously growing in like Florida or California or Arizona. They're in a different zone than we are. But people are so willing to help and to share, the knowledge that they have. So that way, like the info is out there. There's books out there. Yeah. And there's people that share, even on Instagram. I know there's this one girl, and I cannot remember her name, but I will find it and I will send it to you. But she's out in California. But she also has a blog, and she shares tons of good recipes too, not only for like, how to preserve your food. She does a lot of sourdough recipes, if that's something you're interested in too. Making your own bread, which I kind of dabbled into. It's a long process, but it's fun and it tastes good. And she shares like slaves and how to dry stuff, and like she does like the raised garden bed thing, and she's got a couple chickens too. But she shared a lot of really good information as well that, I've used an account when, I've gardened or made a recipe or something like that too. So it's cool. There's a lot of people out there that are into that kind of stuff, and share the knowledge that they have. There's another, I think I have it in here too. Let me show you really quick, because this was really helpful for me. The vegetable gardener.
I think I added that to my Amazon list a couple weeks ago. That one looks
This one I referenced a lot last year because I had no idea what I was doing. You can borrow it if you want to, but it tells you a lot of everything, when to plant stuff, how to plant stuff, what to do, what not to do, composting, how to trellis stuff. I mean, this guy's, I forget who it was that told me about that book, but he's obviously into organic growing as well. So he doesn't use, your conventional type fertilizers or whatever you want to call them. Just tips and tricks that this guy's, done. So that's one I recommend. I don't have a ton of gardening books, but I like that one.
I went through a phase, where, I kind of grew up, in that era too, where it was like the internet was just kind of coming into schools and things like that. And so it was like, we use the internet for everything. And so I got rid of, a whole bunch of books. I never really, well, growing up, I owned a lot of books. We lived out in the backwoods, so we didn't have internet. But it was like, then
It froze on me.
Oh yeah, you're frozen. Can you still see me and hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I gotcha.
So yeah, I went through a phase where I kind of got rid of a lot of books, and now I'm like, I want all of the books for everything. I want all the gardening books. I want all the oil books. I want all the personal development. I want all the health books. I want all of them.
Well, it's nice to have it at hand and not have to like go, because it's great. Like you can bookmark stuff on your phone, but to be able, I don't know, I'm a physical person, so I like physically having stuff in front of me. So like having, I mean, I've got, tabs in here and all kinds of junk notes and everything else that, the companion planning, that kind of stuff that like I reference for myself that I highlight or think is important. But internet's great too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either of them, but it's nice to have a little bit of both sometimes.
Yes. Well, and nowadays, books are not censored the way that the internet is currently. So I, really am getting into books. Okay.
Yeah, the information doesn't change on those. They stay the same usually.
Plus a lot of, our ancestors knew what they were doing on a lot of different things. So, okay. So Alysha talked about taking control of your land and some really great tips. I always love teaching with you because even if no one else learns anything, I learn something. So this is all worth it to me, and it's so much fun. Okay. So I am going to talk, and you did talk about this too, which I am excited. I have not talked to Alysha about this, so we'll see what your reaction is. But I would love to do, if we can do it in person, I would love to do that, where whoever's house, walk around and do some foraging. So I would love to do kind of a foraging class this spring, summer, and then via Zoom if we had to. So
yeah, I'll do it. I'll volunteer my house.
Yes, that would be so much fun. Because yes, to be able to have things in your backyard and utilize all the resources, because so many people are like, well, I can't afford this and I can't afford that. But listen, if you got dandelions growing in your lawn, which I mean, who doesn't, then you have a huge source of nutrients it has so many medicinal benefits and things like that. I mean, you can literally eat oh my word, like the seed pods, what are they called, of sunflowers, the middle of sunflower, like there's so many more resources out there than you have been led to believe you have. So okay.
I mean, the way that I say it is like God knew what he was doing when he created everything, and anything we could possibly ever need, for any ailment is at our fingertips. Is just having, access to it and the knowledge to what it is you need when you need it. And it's just like, it blows my mind every time I, think about the connection of the two, because that's how it's supposed to work. You know what I'm saying? That perfection of the whole circle of everything. Sorry, go ahead.
No, when we think we can do it better than God, that's where things happen. Because I mean, the majority of prescription medications start off as plants that they got from a garden somewhere. And then they take it to a lab and think they can do it better than God can. And that is why we have so many issues.
Yes. Right. So they can patent it. So, they
can make billions of dollars off of it and pay out billions in lawsuits. Okay. So on that note, we're going to talk about taking control of your health. So these go hand in hand. So if you have not figured out already, the number one thing that I tell people when they tell me, I want to take control of my health, or I want to change this, or I want to do that. Like, number one, question everything. Okay. So, all right. Without going into the rabbit hole, we have been, okay. So I wrote this out. Sometimes I just, write things out very good. So I know you're already questioning what I say, because we've been conditioned for decades to doubt anyone without letters behind their name. Okay. So many people I talk to, I know they question me right off the bat because, I mean, what do I know? I don't have any letters behind my name. I'm not a mom. I'm not this. I'm not that. So how could I possibly know this information? Okay. But I want you to question me. I don't want you to take my word for everything because I will not be right on everything. And I'm not you. So you are your responsibility. I am my responsibility, and I will give suggestions all day long and help you as much as I can. But in the end, your health, your decisions are your responsibility. They are not my fault. So I need you to question me, but I need you to question all the experts too. So they may or may not have your best interests in mind. Okay. However, I guarantee that you have your best interests in mind. Okay. You value yourself more than they do. Okay. So question everything. Number one. Okay. Get comfortable with looking at the information with your own eyeballs. Okay. There's so much information and data and research and testimonies. We so undervalue testimonies. Excuse me. So look at all of that with your own eyes from all sides. Okay. You can find opinions and proof for or against every health decision you're going to make. Okay. So many people say carbs are the worst thing for you ever. Don't eat any of them. And then other people are like, you have to have carbs to survive. So who do you listen to? Well, you read all of the information from both sides because everyone has opinion and everyone will have legal proof, not legal, what am I looking, scientific proof to back it up. Now, it may not be real. The study may or may not have been biased, but you still should look at it with an open mind.
For sure.
I like to think about it. Okay. Eli, I don't think has gotten to this phase yet, but I'm sure your girls went through this where, there's a phase. My nephew's in this right now where, you're like, okay, we're going to church. Why? Well, because God wants us to go to church and we need, people, whatever. Why? Well, because that's how God created us. Why? Well, I don't know. When you get to heaven, you can ask him. Why? Well, I don't know. Like,
yeah, you can only answer so many why
anymore. And so, but after, while we grow out of that phase, but why do we grow out of that phase? Okay. Always ask why. Okay. Why does my child need some random goop on their eyes when they come out of me? Why do, okay. Sorry. I'll just quit that line because it's going to go very downhill very quickly, but never just be okay with following the rules just because that's what you've always done. Okay. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, the same way and expecting a different result. So if if you've always had migraines and you just keep doing the same things and you get on Facebook and vent about why you're having migraines and don't change anything, well, guess what? You're always going to have migraines. Okay. So just things have to change. Growth, living a more crunchy lifestyle is so incredibly rewarding. Okay. Knowing why you're doing things is just so empowering and so amazing. But the journey to get there, and the journey doesn't end, until we die. Yeah. So the journey is so so rewarding and so amazing and so much fun, and especially the people you meet and relationships you build. But it's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I know for a fact it's so much easier to go to the store and buy a carton of eggs for $1.99 than it is to go out every morning in your muck boots and feed your chickens expensive organic food. Like, it's easy to live a conventional, traditional lifestyle.
Sure.
But
it's the convenience, that we're used to and that we enjoy.
Yeah, but with our health declining at such a rapid rate and our kids suffering and, us being miserable, like, is that convenience worth it?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. Alysha obviously doesn't because, you got your own chickens, you know, making your own health decisions. So just always question why. Okay. Even if you come to the same conclusion, you know, if you come to the same conclusion, you want to make the same health decision that I have made for my family, like, cool. But I don't want you to do it just because that's what I would do. I want you to do it because you've read the data, you've heard the testimonials, you know, you've looked at both sides, and that is the conclusion you have comfortably come to. Okay.
For
People
sure.
tell me, you know, so many people reach out to me and they're like, well, I don't feel comfortable taking oils internally. I'm like, that's totally fine. I take them internally because I have read stuff for and against, and I feel comfortable taking them internally. If you don't, you don't have to. Like, that's the good thing is, you know, if you don't, if tomatoes are too hard for you to mentally, you know, grow because it's just a mental block, then don't grow them. Like, it's just one of those things where, yeah, just,
you have the freedom to be able to
yes.
shift it to what suits you best. Like if
And
it
it's
doesn't
okay
fit,
to change your mind.
Yes, it
Yes.
is. Absolutely.
It's okay to, you know, if you're sending your kids to school and, you know, one day you wake up and you're like, I don't like this. I never see my kids. Excuse me. I don't like the school they're in. I'm going to pull them in homeschool. Great. Sorry.
No, you're
If
fine.
next year you homeschool and you're like, you know, homeschooling is not what I thought it was going to be. You know, I miss them being gone for 8 hours a day. Then put them back in school. Like,
right.
Listen, people are going to judge you no matter what decision you make. So at the end of the day, you make whatever decision that your instincts, your God-given feelings are telling you. You stick with that. Okay, stick to your guns. Whatever. Find people who will support you. That's why a village, a community is so incredibly important. I see people, you know, struggling, doing it by themselves. And I'm like, it's because you're doing it by yourself. Like, God literally did not create us. Okay. Little rabbit trail a little bit. When Jesus came to earth, his entire ministry, he was never alone. Okay. I mean, he was, but you know, he didn't do his ministry alone. He found disciples to build his village with and go out and do ministry together. Like, he would not have given us that example if he wanted us to do it alone. Okay. Right. So find your village. Okay. So this is kind of all over the place, but anyway, so I have this little great kind of acronym because when you start, excuse me, when you start looking into taking control of your health and making different decisions than what is this is not a word, societally acceptable. Okay. Yeah. There are going to be some challenges and you're going to get very overwhelmed. Even though I've been in the health field for, I think we're going on 5 years, 6 years. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And even still, it's sometimes I'm like, I can't read anymore. I don't know what to do. You know, just brain melted all out my ears. Yeah. And so it is something that I try very hard to not overwhelm people. It's okay to take it one step at a time. So I'm pretty proud of this acronym. So this kind of gives you steps to taking control of your health because yes, there's so many things you could do. Where do I start? Okay. So the little acronym, which hopefully I'm using the right word, is detox. Okay. So the D stands for drink plenty of water. Okay. Our body is like 80% water. So if we don't have, just like the garden, okay, if you don't water your garden, nothing grows.
It does. Same thing happens in our body. We get dehydrated.
Yes. So drink plenty of water. Okay. If you don't like water, then just start small. My brother does not like water. And so of course, when I was in high school, he was like my role model. I did, want to do everything he did. So I never drank any water. Well, then of course I got to college and I was sick all the time. I had horrible digestive issues. So when I was introduced, to the world of health and wellness and fitness, they were like, you got to drink at least half your body weight in ounces of water, which, okay. So at the time I was using this as an example, 200, if I weigh 200 pounds, that means I need to be drinking 100 ounces of water a day, which is, well, my goal is 4 of these. This is about a 30-ounce thing, which that is a crap ton of water. That's a gallon of water almost.
Especially if you're not drinking it. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, one like 16-ounce, plastic bottle of water a day. Or like when I lived at college, it was like one dining hall, cup of water a day. And so I was like, excuse me now, like I didn't drink how many ounces of water? And so you become very acquainted with the bathroom. Okay.
Yeah.
And, but this is TMI, but we like TMI in my group. So when your pee starts becoming more clear and, more clear and less yellow, and you like, this is one of my like biggest accomplishments of the day. I'm like, my pee is clear. I am so well hydrated. I am the queen of water. I am like, it's the bomb. Okay. So just start small. If you don't drink any water, then just start with a cup a day or whatever you want your goal to be. Okay. I love these tumblers. One of the keys to me drinking enough water is to make sure that I like the cup that I'm drinking out of. So my big tumbler, I know I can drink. Well, my goal, like I said, is 4 of these. I like my metal straw with my silicone tip. That's how I drink the best water. My sister hates drinking out of a straw, so she doesn't. Okay. Find what works best for you, what you like, do that. Okay, so the next letter, excuse me, is E. So eat more fresh, local, organic produce and meat, if you have access to that. Now, when you go to the grocery store, and even though I know the value of organic, even still, I'm like, all right, I either pay $1.49 for a pint of blueberries, or I pay $3.99 for a pint of organic blueberries. Like the price difference is insane. Okay.
It's awful. Yeah.
It is. And I get that. But that is one more reason that farmers markets and co-ops and different things like that are very important.
Right.
Because
that and the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, that's
Yes.
another thing to look into, because there's certain things like celery that I refuse to buy, like conventional, just because I know that the amount of like your pesticides are higher in those. So that's
Yes.
another thing to keep in mind too. So I don't buy organic fruit all the time either, because like you can't afford it. My grocery bill will be like $500. I would feed an army.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's insane. So like, yes, you buy organic where you can. And so Alysha's talking about the Dirty Dozen is a list. You can look it up on the internet, Dirty Dozen fruits, vegetables, whatever. Man. Okay. I need more water. There are certain, I think strawberries are usually on that list, where they absorb more pesticides and hold on to them than like other fruits do. So those you would want to buy organic. So just buying organic where you can. Okay.
Yeah. And even start with 1 or 2, if that's, make that your goal every week, and then add on from there. You don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah. So this is, yes. And then buying, local meat. Like I said, we butt up to a farmer's field. So we buy half a cow from him. Usually like once or twice a year, and then I use that for everything. Plus we deer hunt. So anything like that you can do, to fill freezer, on your own, rather than buying a traditional store, is huge. So yes. Even if you can't buy organic, like I said, local is still really good. So like there's a nursery, I guess is what it is, just down the road from me, called McDaniel's. I don't believe their produce is organic. I could be wrong, but it's local produce. So I would much rather buy that, even though it's not technically organic. I don't think, like I said, if you know I'm wrong, just let me know. But I would much rather eat that local produce than, the strawberries from California that are in Meyer, so just making those small changes.
Fresh fruit that was just picked versus was picked 4 weeks ago before it was ripe, because
covered in wax and sent here.
Properties in the fruit that's not yet established. Like you have higher antioxidants in your berries that are going to be picked closer to freshness. So you're benefiting from doing that too in multiple senses.
Yes. And again, bartering with people. If you're, I own a Cricut. If I can make a Cricut project for you, in exchange, you give me, a bushel of strawberries, like, I am totally on board with that. So any kind of bartering like that you can do, to get that stuff. And if you don't have the actual money, my sister's good at bookkeeping. So she'll, trade with, do your books for a while or help you with her budget or whatever, if, whatever. So bartering is definitely undervalued today. And it's huge for, taking control of your health and your food. Okay. So that was, we had D and E. So the next letter is T. So take your bioavailable high quality vitamins. Now, I can tell you already, these are not sold in your traditional grocery stores. Okay. Those are not high quality vitamins. Those are not bioavailable. So bioavailable basically means your body obviously produces its own hormones and different things like that. And so obviously those are the best. If you can get your body to produce the right quantities of hormones, that's the best. However, it's not always possible. Okay. I was on birth control for almost 6 years. And so my body basically doesn't know how to produce progesterone anymore, which is like the woman hormone, which is vital to a woman's health. So I have to find bioavailable sources of progesterone to be able to supplement my body. So birth control is usually what doctors do when your, periods are all over the place, which is a synthetic form of progesterone, a synthetic form of hormones, which works in the short run, usually is worse in the long run. So finding as close to your natural hormones, which are plant hormones. So plant hormones are bioavailable in the body because they're as close enough to human hormones that your body actually knows how to use them well. Synthetic hormones, it realizes that they're synthetic and it does not use them effectively, causing other issues in the body. So obviously I prefer Young Living for most of my bioavailable high quality vitamins. There have actually been different studies, I guess, but they're like a visual study where adding the oils to the vitamins actually makes them even more bioavailable in the body. It helps them to absorb more of the vitamin. So, and Young Living has everything. So yes, I love their vitamin D. It's delicious. It tastes good. And so it's one of those where I'll sometimes just pop a vitamin D tablet because I have like a sugar craving hit and it's like just sweet enough that, it takes off the edge. And 99% of people are deficient in vitamin D, which is, again, vital to being at top health. Okay, so D, E, T, and O. So O is for outside services. These are also underutilized a lot of the times. So this is things like going to the chiropractor, okay, having health scans. So there are different Zyto scans and the Itobi scanners that will actually tell you kind of what your body is missing and what you could use and different things like that. Excuse me. Muscle testing, massages, therapy, like, oh my word, what is the word I'm looking for? Like going to a therapist and talking different things like that. Yeah. I was like trying to think of this. I know, but anyway, okay. But you guys understand. So the list could go on and on and on because there are just so many that are huge and so useful for different things. There are different things like AFT, that's aroma freedom technique. Your body actually stores emotions in your organs. And so talking therapy doesn't release those emotions in your organs. So you use oils along with like talking therapy to actually talk out, and the oils then physically release the emotions from your organs and detox it from your organs. And so things like that. So using those outside services, I usually can go about 6 weeks between chiropractor adjustments and massages before I like can't stand up straight because my lower back and my hips are all wonky. And so those
I wish I could go that long.
That is like absolute max.
Yeah.
Usually it's about 4 weeks. And really, I always set up my chiropractor appointments before I leave that appointment. You know, I set up the next one. But just doing what you can. Obviously, like I can't even afford all of these services. So just picking what's most important to you. Like I said, I cannot, after about 6 weeks, I can't walk. So chiropractor is a necessity for me. But yes, so many different things. Yes, so I have recommendations on those too if you're looking for those. Okay, and then the last one is X. So I know this doesn't like super fit, but it works. So excuse toxic people and products from your life. So we all, yes, we all, whenever I say this, you know, toxic people, I mean, we all have people instantly come to our minds, okay? If you don't, then I'm really impressed by you, okay? Usually it's probably a family member often that comes to mind, okay? Which I know is hard, like
it's harder with family, right?
It is, you know, it's hard with toxic family, but setting up your boundaries. This is why when you are in control of your decisions because you have thought about them and weighed the consequences and prayed about it and, you know, read the pros and cons and all that, you can be firm in your decisions and firm in your boundaries. So setting up boundaries, okay, whether that means you only see them on holidays and you know, apply all the oils before you go over there, or you know, just different things like that. Like I literally I do, but before family events, I have to bathe myself in oils very often because it's just yes, I love my family, but it's just difficult sometimes.
I hear ya. Mine's not perfect either. I don't think there is.
And no one, and I really do have a great family. And especially the more people I talk to, the more I'm like, thank you, Lord, you gave me the family I did. They have their issues, but you know, no criminal. Well, technically we're criminals, but you know, no criminals, no perverts. Like, I have it pretty good. So yeah, excuse toxic people and products. So just because something is sold in a store does not mean it's safe. Just get it in your head. I don't care who it is. Manufacturers don't care about you. Okay. And I don't care who they are. I like Young Living as a company, and most products I trust, but are still ingredients that I look up in their products just because I'm not going to trust anyone explicitly 100%. Okay.
Sure.
Because companies do make mistakes too. So there are some good organic companies who their purpose in founding the company was to make these good products, but research is always changing. An ingredient that seemed safe when it first came out is now deemed not safe because they've had longer to study it. So just always checking your labels. Be a label reader and question everything are two of my favorite things to tell people. So, and that includes everything, your lotions, your makeup, your household cleaners, your pet products, your everything that comes near you, you breathe in, you touch, gets absorbed by your skin, anything, question the ingredients in it. Okay. Your laundry soap, your air fresheners. Okay. Your home does not need to smell like chemical flowers. Okay. Buy real plants and make it smell like real flowers. Okay. Or buy oils, the next best thing, and make it smell like real smells, not, I can't even walk down the cleaning aisle in a grocery store anymore, but I went to the mall for the first time in, years, and walked past Bath and Body Works, and I thought I was going to die. Like I felt like my throat was closing up, and I'm like, I can't, like, I'm panicking. I'm like, I've got to get some fresh air.
Headache anytime, like I smell any of, like, just it's crazy how quick it happens. And like used to have headaches all the time when I was younger, never understood why. It's like,
Yes.
now I
Yeah.
know, but for
Yes.
sure.
Infertility is on the
Stuff
rise.
everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, ADHD and things like that, you know, autism, things like that are just rampant. To me, it's like when I go to a class or anywhere really, and I'm like, does anyone know someone who struggles with infertility? Oh, of course we do. I could list probably 12 people off the top of my head from the 30 people that I actually see their posts on Facebook. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane to me the number of people that struggle with infertility. Okay.
Yeah.
If you read through the Bible, out of the hundreds of women in the Bible, how many struggled with infertility? 2, 3, 2. You know,
yeah, there was a few that were barren.
Yeah, I'm like, but it's now it's like normal, we think, to struggle to have a baby, and it's not. So many things, just because something is common, okay, even though I know 12 women who have struggled with infertility just in the recent years, does not mean it's normal. Okay.
For sure.
So common and normal, not the same thing. Okay. No matter what the CDC is going to tell you. Okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can ask me about that later. But yeah, so infertility is on the rise. I mean, your hormones literally affect everything. So if you have skin issues, you know, eczema, uncontrollable acne, if you have digestive issues, if you are not a regular pooper, that is a problem. I was trying to think of the other like common things. You know, if you feel like you can't focus or you can't think, you have brain fog, stuff like that is not normal, and it's fixable. Okay, it is fixable. 100% of your problems are fixable. Now, sometimes it's out of your budget because it requires some exotic doctor in the middle of Asia who deals with this specifically. Okay, which I don't know about you. I am do not have the resources to travel to Asia. Okay.
No. I'm not going to Asia anytime soon.
No.
For
various reasons. But no, you know, it's 100% of your problems are fixable because God designed your body to work perfectly when you do it His way. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, it's when you get all this man-made crap in the way of how your body's supposed to work is where problems come from. So question everything, read your labels. Okay. I love following, I think her username is Food Babe or The Food Babe. Yeah. I love following her because she talks about all of the crap in conventional products. She just did a reel on like bathroom products. I mean, your toothpaste literally has cancer causing ingredients in it, and you put it in your mouth and you suck on it all day long. Like, I don't suck on my toothpaste, but you guys know what I mean.
It goes in your mouth and they say, oh, you spit it out, but your mouth is a mucous membrane. So you're absorbing that stuff and it's in your mouth. You can't like clear all that out of there.
Yes. So I'm like, you're literally putting cancer in your mouth. The aluminum in your deodorant is literally, you are rubbing cancer on open pores that you just shaved. Whew, okay, man, I get a little worked up tonight. But anyway, question everything, okay? For sure. Always read your labels and do what you can to take control of your land and your health, because they go hand in hand, okay? And listen, it's not going to be easy. I can already tell you this. If your kids are used to watching electronics for 8 hours a day and you're like, hey, let's go outside and work in the garden, they are probably not going to jump right on board. Okay. It's just probably not going to happen. Okay. When you look at your husband, you're like, I'm going to need you to build me 4 16-foot raised garden beds. He's going to be like, why on earth would I do that? So it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it. I promise you. And there are always people you can find to support you. If your current people are not going to support you, there is someone who will. I can guarantee you it. Okay. Even if I disagree with your health decision, if I think it's putting you in danger, I will say something. But if you want to do this instead of that, like I do, I will do my best to support you. I'm a very judgmental person, so I'm working on it. One of those generational things I'm trying to break. But I just want you to be able to set your boundaries and take control of your health, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was so good. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think we may have lost people, but 10:30, it's past most people's bedtime.
I know.
Okay, so thank you so much, Alysha. This is so much fun. I think I could do this like, you know, like once or twice a week, and it would just be amazing. Just to get on here and chat about whatever.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you inviting me as always, and it's always good to talk to you and, you know, discuss stuff. Like, I'm not the only, well, some people call me a nut job in my family, so I'm not the only nutty person, you know, and
Oh yeah.
being able to share information with people that we've learned and gained over the years. And it is so overwhelming at first. Like once you start to recognize, you know, how dirty and corrupt everything really is, it's overwhelming at first, but you start like, you have to take it one step at a time, do what you can, do small, and you don't have to throw out all your products right now and go, you know, spend thousands of dollars. Like do it one at a time. You run out of this, okay, find an alternative that's a little bit safer, that doesn't have fragrance listed, that doesn't have, you know, the aluminum in it, that may not be 100% pure, but it's at least better than what you were using before. And that's where you just start there, you know, make more conscious, better choices every day, and you get better as you go along, you know?
Yes, those small changes. I always like, you know, the analogy, you know, if you have a jar, you know, and today you do one good habit. Sorry. Today you do one good habit, tomorrow you do one good habit, and the next day, you know, it's not that impressive when you have, you know, 3 pebbles in your jar. But once you do those for a while, that jar will fill up, and that's when the good things start to flow out, when you just do those small steps over time. So